Welcome to the podcast. I'm Ben.
I'm Mae.
And I'm Max, and we were had.
Can you believe it?
There are twists and there are turns.
Defleshed is a standard death.
Oh, that's fun.
We were had.
We were.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We have a new, very fancy setup today. If you're watching,
This is an upgrade for us. We are investing more in the podcast.
we've decided to make whoever's really doing the narration and the research, they're the lead, and then we have backup singers.
Yes,
Here,
yes. And it has
with their
nothing
own
to
little-
do with me forgetting the microphone at home. It has nothing to do with that at all. This
No.
is better.
This is
don't,
it.
Don't ask that question because it's simply not true, and that's hearsay.
Yeah.
We've always had a dream to
Slander?
do like a Destiny's Child type setup. Max is Beyonce this episode, and then we're going to move it around. This
Everybody
episode,
gets to be Beyonce.
Max is-
Everybody
yes.
gets to be Beyonce.
Can I at least be Michelle? Who even is the other one?
Kelly Rowland.
Kelly Rowland. Oh.
Justice for Kelly.
Is Kelly better than Michelle, you think?
No, Michelle's great.
Oh, okay. I'm Michelle.
Michelle would have been a star. If there wasn't a Beyonce, there would have been a star.
Well,
in
that's
Michelle.
true.
All right, today we're talking big mystery here. Through history, werewolves, vampires. I'm going to present to you real life, in quotes, accounts of them from history from a different couple of different angles. The goal of the podcast today is I want you guys to tell me which one do you think has a better shot at really being real.
Okay. I think I have my opinion already.
I think I have a
You
preliminary
both
opinion
have
too.
preconceived notions. I don't want you to tell me yet, but at the end, I want you to tell me who you thought it was and if that changed.
Okay.
Are you Team Jacob? Are you Team Edward? We'll find out here today. Let me tell you something, and I'm recusing myself because I know for a fact both of them are real.
Who's hotter, though?
That's interesting. I would rather be with a vampire.
Yeah, me too. I'd definitely rather be with Edward than
Vampires
the other guy
are
was
sexy.
like dorky to me.
Edward is
Werewolf?
Pattinson.
Werewolf is a bit dorky.
It's a little dorky.
It's also weird. Nobody wants a fucking animal. Can
Yeah,
we say,
yeah,
can
right,
I say
yeah.
it? Can I
Is
say
that
it?
controversial to say?
Well, first of all, speak for yourself. And then also is, what I want to make sure. So Edward is Robert Pattinson?
Yes.
Edward
Well, he's
is
just a better looking guy, period.
I don't know. The other guy's like
You're not fucking Lautner?
Yeah, Lautner's pretty cute.
Did I say that? Did I say that?
I'll tell you what, I'm putting a bag over his career. Let me tell you that.
His career stinks.
Yeah, well, he's not a good actor.
As
You know,
opposed
he's
to
not a good actor.
Pattinson, who does like these great independent movies.
You know what?
He's great.
Yeah.
It was smart. What he did is he hid himself in indies for years after
Yeah.
he studied. So did Stewart. She's great now too. She's getting buzzed
Oh, really?
for that Diana.
Yeah, she played Diana.
Really?
Playing Princess Di.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be
say
good.
All right.
Definitely the third of the Who Would You Fuck of the cast members of Twilight.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's not even. Yeah. I don't care about the 1-2 order,
Well,
but
here's
yeah.
the thing. She's always like,
Yeah. She's like a lot of like hair touching. Like,
she's like,
oh no.
Oh, is she gonna play
Yeah.
Diana like that?
yeah. That's how Princess Di famously was like.
Gonna help the orphans. Yeah.
That was Diana.
That was pretty good.
All right, so I'm gonna go alternating werewolf, vampire, werewolf, vampire, werewolf, vampire. I've got a famous one from history, modern day accounts of each existing currently, and of course, possible origins or explanations. All right.
All right.
Werewolf story number 1: the Werewolf of Bedburg. You know this, correct?
Jewish.
Well,
Sounds Jewish.
This is the famous Jewish.
It's a Jewish bedbug.
One of the most famous werewolf cases.
Coming to get you, bitch.
That's vampire.
Yeah.
That's
It's a Jewish vampire.
Can't do a Jewish accent. That was pure vampire.
what sound does a werewolf make?
Like oh or whatever.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
What would-
Ow is the word.
What would a Jewish person do? Like ow.
Oh.
Ow.
The moon. It's
this
out.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably bad. We have one to vouch for us.
Borderline. It's borderline anti-Semitic to compare us to werewolves and make us more annoying.
Okay, we know what the real ones say, but like, what would a more annoying person say? I have allergies to my dander.
Oh my god, my own fur.
I'm allergic to
Is that normal?
Is that normal?
Okay. A werewolf number 1, the Werewolf of Bedburg. It's one of the most famous werewolf cases. It's Peter Stump with 2 P's. a wealthy farmer accused of being a serial murderer, cannibal, and werewolf in Rhineland in 1589. I don't remember where Rhineland is. Don't ask me about it.
Okay.
In the years preceding his arrest, the country town of Bedburg had been plagued with horrors. So it started with dead and mutilated cattle. Shout out episode 1.
Yeah.
Mutilated cattle.
That could have been aliens.
Bodies of townsfolk were also soon found in the fields. Initially, it was thought that a wolf or wolves were attacking, but the creatures evaded capture. Finally, in 1589, a hunting party managed to corner the wolf with its hounds. When the humans approached, they saw, according to the reports, not a wolf at all. Instead, the hounds had cornered Stump.
So was he like hairy and acting like a wolf, or
That's
was
a good
he
question
like?
that you have here. The most damning piece of evidence was that Stump's left hand had been lopped off. The wolf had its left forepaw cut off. Since wolf and man had the same injury, wolf and man must be one and the same. The police were like, he also changed in front of our eyes.
Okay.
So
the police,
Stump,
the Bedburg police in 1589.
yeah.
Were they also burning witches at this time?
Very hardcore. Also, it's important to mention that wolf attacks very common in Europe. Apparently,
Really?
there was also a big werewolf one. I didn't choose this one, but there was one in France where it's 7,000 people died from wolves in this certain period.
What?
It was
That's
lot.
a lot.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Wolves
That's
were taking
significant.
people out. But you know how I really fuck up stats, so that very much could do this.
One guy saw a wolf was the actual stat.
Okay, so Stump actually confessed, but it's a questionable confession at best. He was subjected to torture, including the rack. He said he'd made a pact.
What's the rack? Is that when they stretch you out?
Yeah, that's when they
Ooh,
put you in
marron.
a rack. It's not good. Yeah, it's gonna be like, oh, go figure. He confessed. I'll tell you whatever you want if you poke me a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let
Right.
me tell you something. If you're putting me on the rack, I'll tell you. Yeah, I made a pact with the devil. So he said he made a pact with the devil when he was 12. He had been given a magic belt, which allowed him to turn into a wolf. He confessed to killing 14 children and 2 pregnant women.
Ooh.
He ate of their flesh and ravished their bodies. He
Yikes.
killed his own son and had a sexual relationship with his own daughter. I don't know if that's the worst part.
Yeah.
Why is he? I mean,
How's that related?
Werewolves.
Yeah, wolves
Werewolves,
just
they
do
turn
that.
into a wolf at night, fuck their daughters, everybody knows.
I'm
Okay.
surprised this hasn't been a movie. Because, any
Yeah.
opportunity to make a movie about werewolves or vampires, I feel like is taken. And this is a
Yeah.
great
and
story.
serial killers,
And
which
serial
is like what
killers.
it actually was. It's just like
So
probably a
he
serial
was
killer.
sentenced to die in the most awful manner, and I went into a real deep dive into it. It's terrible. So he was fixed to a breaking wheel and had flesh torn from his body with red-hot pincers. His limbs were broken with the blunt side of an axe, so he might not rise from the grave. Finally, he was beheaded. His head was placed on a pole with the figures of the breaking wheel and a wolf on it as a warning to others. They would literally just break your bones one by one.
Oh, God.
Oh my
Horrible.
god!
The way people did, I mean, I guess they didn't have Netflix and shit, but this was public. People would
Of
watch
course.
this.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
made me really think how sick fuckers are, and why.
yeah.
It also makes sense to people on Twitter that they're all just fucking take
Yeah.
them down.
Oh, they
Yeah,
love it.
let 'em
It gets them
die.
off.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Yeah, ruin his career.
People just love public stonings. They always
love
have.
it. They
Even if
always
there's
have.
even if they're not based in truth. Like, let's be real. This guy was probably not a fucking werewolf, and people were like, "Kill the beast," and they love it. They love every second of it. I'm sure the Salem witch trials, people were fucking hyped for that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Lining up around the corner to see some bitch get burned.
And
Like,
you're right.
they
It's
all
the
love
same human instinct. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously better now that it's just words.
It's
but
a different class.
Is that
Yeah.
true? I don't know.
Is that true? Yeah.
so his
Then
daughter-
bone by bone.
I'd rather have somebody physically injure me than do what they do to me on Twitter, honestly.
Back to Stump. His daughter and mistress were also flayed, strangled, and burned. I don't know why the women had to get it too, but it's not known whether the crimes were truly committed by Stump. At the time, the region was deeply affected by the Cologne War. I don't know what that is. Don't ask me. Stump was a Protestant convert, and the region had been seized by the Catholics in 1857. His death was to the Catholics' advantage, as his considerable wealth would fall to them. In addition, Stump's death could serve as a strong warning to other Protestants.
I'm really sorry. How did we jump 300 years there?
What?
The region had been seized by the Catholics in 1857. Oh, yeah.
Did you mean 50? Maybe it was just.
Maybe at 1557. Yeah, sorry about
1587.
that.
Okay, no worries.
But anyway, the goal, the thing here is this could be a very thinly veiled Catholics just fucking over Protestants. He was a rich guy that they. Here's the thing, it's 15, whoopsie daisy. If you turn to somebody and go, this fucker right over just blasted into a wolf in this alleyway, you're not going to believe it. And everybody in town's like, we got to fucking break him down. You guys get the wheel, bro. We gotta snap him in half.
Here's the thing. I find that like conflict between Protestants and Catholics to be so
If you're
incredible
not
because
watching this, she's doing like a fist bump.
A
to herself.
fist
bump,
That's
yeah.
an international sign for conflict.
but it's so I'm like, what even is the difference between the two? It's like very, very minute, right? I mean, I guess that's what all
Martin
religions
Luther
are very
put the
like
99
similar.
practices. What is it? Treatises.
Treatises, yeah.
But it was bullshit. It started with the English guy, right? The king that wanted to divorce his wife.
Right, Henry VIII split from the Catholic Church just so that he can get a divorce and marry a new woman.
Nice.
But I feel like oftentimes I mean, obviously there are religious wars all the time, but sometimes like Sunnis and Shias in Islam, like sometimes when there is just a little difference, it's almost even more intense.
Yeah.
But I don't know why that is.
It's like you're so close, but human beings are so disturbing.
I think it goes back to the
They're
other
so
thing.
disturbingly tribal.
I hate it.
It's ridiculous.
It goes
Yeah.
back to the other thing. People, there's just aggression in human nature. They
Yeah.
want to
That's
stone
like-
people. They want to fight
But it's
wars.
also kind of like maybe because they're so similar, they know the other side will kind of listen to them. Like it's sort of like people that get their asses kicked on Twitter. They only take down people that will listen. No one's going after people that are untouchable.
you can
you know
only
what I mean?
be canceled if you
If you
accept
accept
it.
the canceling.
You accept
Yeah,
the
exactly.
cancel.
Yeah, if you
That's an
apologize.
interesting point. But I will say, like, if you look at things like just like throughout history and also like modern day as well, like it can be as massive as like country versus country racism, that kind of stuff. But as far down as like a New York, the nuts versus hot dog guys on the corner. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like groups will form and hate each other no matter which way you
It's
cut it.
insane.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Anyway,
hate people.
Vampires
Most
and
everyone.
werewolves. That's the first werewolf story, one of the most famous. I think it's what a cool and fun story is that they saw this guy change and that the wolf was also missing a paw. And he
Yeah.
was missing a hand.
I like that.
What an interesting kind of thing. All right, this is the first vampire story. Big request from Mae Elaine here, the vampire killer of Sacramento.
Oh, this is bananas.
So this is a lot. I'm going to skip around because I copied from a couple different articles. There's a lot of gruesome detail. This guy was real bad. He was a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Can I say something? Not a good guy.
Yeah. That's a hot take.
Richard Trenton Chase became known as the vampire killer of Sacramento because he would drink the blood of his victims and practice cannibalism with their body parts. 6 known victims were claimed by Chase, although I would say that his numbers were probably higher. than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
At least when you factor in animals, way higher.
Oh, yeah.
Technical question.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
Cannibalism, vampire trait, often.
Vampires just are into the blood. They
Just
don't
the
eat
blood.
people. Cannibalism actually is more of a werewolf thing.
More
where it's
werewolf.
like
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Eating
Oh.
people, less like drinking the blood, more eating people.
Yeah. Do werewolves
Yes, thank you for- yes, question.
multiply the same way that can they like turn other people into
That's
werewolves?
interesting. So a bite from each, historically, that is what can turn you into each. But although werewolves have more to do with, they're oftentimes cursed. A lot of the time, like a witch cursed somebody, whereas vampires, they're really just kind of bringing you into the fold.
Right, because I would rather almost be a vampire because a werewolf is like a real person tormented by the fact that they're a werewolf when the full moon
Yeah,
is
and not
out.
having control over your actions
Yeah.
makes it worse.
Yeah.
What a torment of that. But the vampire people, they're both immortal. I don't know which one I would still rather be a vampire. For
Yeah,
sure.
me too. Yeah, and I feel like they have a better
I
community.
just don't want to be an animal. They have
Yeah.
a way better community. They look out for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're not, I've never seen a vampire that's upset, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's upset about the fact that they're a vampire.
Although
Yeah.
that's not true. Have you ever seen Blade?
Oh,
No.
yeah.
Yeah. Some people see it as a curse, and like there's the story. What about Angel? They made a whole show about it.
Angel I have not
That
seen.
fucker
I'll
was
admit
just
that I have
drinking
not
blood
seen.
from a hospital in a fridge.
Oh, that's
he
not
was
a bad idea.
He was so broody. Let me tell you that. Just eat a neck.
I never saw Angel, but I've seen Buffy, and Angel's a character on Buffy.
Angel's a character. He's
Yeah.
like the vampire with a soul, famously.
Okay.
That's the thing about it. Like you lose your soul.
Oh, okay.
This motherfucker didn't have a soul. Let me tell you that.
No, he
I'm
didn't.
throwing a lot of fuckers around today. I apologize.
I mean, this story is insane.
So, Richard Trenton Chase, he was born May 23rd, 1950, in Sacramento, California. Nothing good comes from Sacramento.
No.
As a child, he was known to have the big 3 for psychopathic killers, like the serial killer traits, which was set fires, wet the bed, and torture animals. Those are the big 3. So, folks at home, if your kid's doing that, call someone.
Yep.
I think wet the bed is fine if you're.
It's also coupled with, you guessed it, terrible parenting. Like his father, instead of helping him, he was like, this fucker's weird for doing this.
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah.
maybe like being like, let's get the kid some help.
Right.
Once he became older, he started drinking and using drugs, mostly smoking marijuana, using LSD, which are the good drugs. He was in and out of mental institutions during much of his life. He developed hypochondria from his drug and alcohol abuse. Sorry, pop-up need a little donkeys. which caused him to tell doctors that his pulmonary artery had been stolen, his heart would stop beating, and he claimed that his blood was turning to powder, which is vampire-y. That's a very vampire-y claim.
Yeah.
So he was said to have no social life, no girlfriends. All he did was spend time capturing and killing animals and then eating them raw or blended up.
Ooh.
Which is like, when I'm advocating for eating it raw, you know you're doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Blending
it
a
up.
smoothie.
And they didn't have a ninja back then. It was like an old
Was he
school.
just kind of muddling it up?
Yeah, maybe just like muddling it up because they didn't have the blender technology in the 70s is not what it is now.
You're getting chunks.
No way. They were just inventing the microwave. They were way behind.
Way back. Maybe a
Science
food
of it.
processor? Food processors, those were a thing, right? I don't know. Whatever.
Well, if we could ask him.
Yeah.
So he was actually, in 76, he was hospitalized for blood poisoning after injecting himself with the blood of a rabbit he killed. I don't know how he didn't die so much earlier in life. Because this is
Truly.
They tell you if you mix a little bit of blood in with yourself, you're done.
Really?
That's like you can famously get like hep whatever.
Yeah,
You definitely shouldn't be just drinking blood as shit. Especially
No.
other people.
No.
That's like bad. It could be like against your
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yes, that's the reason why you shouldn't drink someone's blood. Is because it's bad for your health.
Patients and nurses were frightened by him. They called him Dracula. He was found with blood on his smeared on his face off it. But he told people it was from cutting shaving, but he was biting the heads off of birds and sucking their blood.
Oh! Wait, didn't Ozzy Osbourne do that?
A bat.
A bat.
A bat
Yeah.
one time on stage.
Okay.
And who among us?
Yeah.
Let's not toss stones, you know? Here's another failure of the American medical system. Once he started taking medication, they let him go. And
Wait,
then-
seriously?
Yeah.
What kind of medication do we know?
We
don't know.
I don't
Okay.
know, like antipsychotics.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
guessing. A year later, he was found.
Prozac. Yeah.
He was found naked and covered in cow's blood in a field in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Is it Nevada or Nevada? I always forget from Veep. They taught me the actual thing, but so many people.
Isn't Lake Tahoe in California? Am I wrong about that?
No, you're wrong about that.
Yeah, you're very fucking wrong.
You're-
All right, nearby. Sacramento's in California.
Yes.
All right, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so the incident was reported that he was found naked and covered in cow's blood.
Imagine that fucking scene. Like you're just like walking up and some guy's like covered in blood and naked. I would be running for my life.
Another ball dropped, by the way, by the authorities here. It was reported nothing was done. A few short months later, guess what? He shot and killed a woman.
Oh,
Great.
It was all leading to this. The event was a drive-by. According to the FBI, he was not identified as the shooter. So his next victim was a pregnant wife of David Wallen. He was found by her husband. She was found by her husband, disemboweled and drained of her blood.
Ooh.
He collected her blood into a yogurt cup to drink it. He was later... Oh, they also found the remains of the dog. Don't kill the dog, you fucker. He killed a FBI, developed a profile for based on this, and it was a perfect match for this guy.
Great.
He killed a bunch of other people. He also
And he
took
had all this blood in his house. So like when they found it, he had like
a child from one of the places, like a 22-month-old. Yeah.
adrenochrome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing.
He was a significant lead came when somebody that like went to high school with him said he approached her car and his eyes were sunken, he was extremely thin, and he had blood stains on his sweatshirt.
Jesus Christ.
So he was they staked out his apartment. He was detained. They found a gun, which was linked back to everything. They found a 12-inch butcher knife, rubber boots, animal collars, 3 blenders containing blood, and
Ugh.
several dishes inside the refrigerator containing body parts. A calendar was even found in his apartment containing the word "today" marked on the dates of the Wallen and Maroth murders. A mummified, decapitated baby was later found in a box outside of a vacant lot.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. However, he was deemed legally insane at the time. He was found guilty on all 6 murder counts. He stated that he used to walk the streets to see if doors were unlocked, and he stated that if the door was locked, that meant you weren't welcome, which is like a vampire.
Which is a
thing.
very
Yeah,
vampire-y
yeah, yeah.
thing,
Okay.
yeah.
Which they have to be
You
invited
have to like
in, you know?
let them in, yeah.
So following his conviction, he began receiving medication. Instead of actually taking the medication, he stockpiled it until he had enough to commit suicide.
Great.
He was found
Okay.
dead in a cell. He Epsteined himself.
Yeah. I'm not bummed about that though.
I'm not upset.
No.
Were you bummed about Epstein?
Here's the thing. Epstein was a loss. This guy was not.
Well, actually, I did want
Flags
to
were flying at half-mast.
to be fair, I did want to hear Epstein sing like a canary.
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
true, too.
That's true.
Now we'll never know because Hillary Rodham Clinton murdered him.
Known vampire, Hillary
Yeah.
Rodham Clinton. So this would just irks you because it's like the only thing that I guess would not be a real life vampire in this situation is that he was able to kill himself. by
Oh,
just
yeah.
poisoning,
Yeah,
but
that's
by like
true.
taking enough medication. Like if you're actually a vampire. But
Then
here's the
you
thing.
can die.
I would hope that you can't live this
Forever?
long
Yeah.
eating body parts and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. And then the other thing is, wouldn't he just turn into a bat and fly out of there?
Scientifically, yes.
The scientifically.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Is like Ben and I were talking about this briefly beforehand because you were late and forgot the microphone. But the vampire mythology is all over the map. There's a lot of different stories that go into it. Werewolf's pretty kind of cut and dry.
Okay.
All right, so
Yeah, just to kind of go off that, would just drinking blood be... Okay, so with a werewolf, the obvious thing is that they turn into a wolf.
Yeah.
With a vampire, what would you say the main trait of a vampire is?
I would say the
I would
main
say-
trait are like you. First of all, you never die. You're like in
Never die.
Immortal,
Immortal
the
and-
vampirism aspect, the eating, the drinking,
the
blood,
drinking of the blood.
and the fact that it's like a thirst that you have to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That it compels
Fangs? Is fangs
you.
necessary?
Fangs is important.
Fangs
I
can
feel.
come or go. I don't
Fangs
know.
could come and go, different shapes, sizes. I
Yeah.
like to believe in the retractable fang.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
always see them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The
a personal preference.
retractable
That's
fang, I love that.
That's a personal preference.
And the other trait, how you defeat a vampire. Is that
that's
important?
all over the map.
Steak,
The steak. The
yeah.
wooden steak.
Steak, cutting the head off is always works.
And something
Really?
religious. It's always, I mean, going back to that was a werewolf
but
example.
Then
But
we were talking about this too, is that like you have movies that start where it's like, hey, forget everything you think you thought you knew about vampires. This
Right.
isn't like a movie, all right? This shit's
Right.
real, you know? Crosses don't do shit. You gotta cut the fuckers in the face. And it's like, okay, well, this is a movie.
What about garlic? Does garlic do
garlic?
shit?
That was another thing.
Garlic in the Blade films, yes, that did work. And silver. Those
Okay.
are big things. Silver also big for werewolves.
Interesting.
Famous line from the critically acclaimed Van Helsing film starring Hugh Jackman opposite Kate Beckinsale.
Yep.
Kate Beckinsale says, "You can't shoot them. You have to. It has to be with a silver bullet."
Okay.
In her terrible Eastern
I don't know
European,
what accent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Eastern
okay.
European
Yeah.
accent. She's doing a very racist Asian
Are you
accent.
doing Jewish again?
She said, "Ah."
Yeah.
All right, so werewolf story number 2. There was a literal, honest-to-God hospital study on full moons to see if it affected people and if there was like a werewolf thing.
Okay.
Oh,
And this
okay.
was recently, in the
Yeah.
2000s.
Really?
So a study in an Australian hospital has identified a spike in out-of-control, quote, werewolf patients when a full moon is out. So there were 91 emergency patients rated as having violent and acute behavioral disturbance at the Calvary Mater Newcastle Hospital from August 2008 to July 2009. So Leonie Calver, a clinical research nurse in toxicology, said almost a quarter of the cases, 23%, occurred on a night of a full moon, and this was double the number for other lunar phases. So the
Okay.
patients...
Okay, that is weird.
Yeah, the patients all had to be sedated and physically restrained to protect themselves and others.
What?
So she said some of these patients attacked the staff like animals, biting, spitting, and scratching. One might compare them with the werewolves of the past, who are said to have also appeared during the full moon. She said werewolf mythology, including reports of people rubbing magic ointment onto the skin or inhaling vapors to induce the shirt-rending transformation from man to beast. The main ingredients were belladonna and nightshade, she said, both substances that could produce delirium, hallucinations, and delusion of bodily metamorphosis. So she said it appeared...
Nightshades, aren't those fucking like...
Flowers? That always appears in like sci-fi bullshit. Nightshade.
Wait,
I
I-
think it's because the name has such a cool like...
Yeah, but I
spelling
thought a
name.
nightshade was like an eggplant.
Oh.
That might be true.
Okay. Whatever.
Can I just say, just real quick, I realize that money gets wasted all the time in a lot of ways. Was this government funded?
This was a hospital.
Yeah. What are we? Why are we not putting this into some sort of cure?
This was a scientific journal. This was in Scientific Journal.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. All right.
You guys are haters. So she said the modern day werewolf preferred alcohol or illicit drugs, as more than 60% of the patients reviewed in the study were under the influence.
They're all just on meth, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're going crazy.
They're
I don't know.
werewolves.
Yeah, they must be
So
werewolves.
she said, this is actually fun.
And it's just the moon because they're just like, what the fuck is that? The sun looks weird.
She said this with a straight face. We don't know if it's more fun to use drugs and alcohol under a full moon or if their behavioral disturbance is directly influenced by the moon. She was like, you know what? Could be just meth could hit different under a full moon.
Okay.
She said our findings support the premise that individuals with violent and acute behavioral disturbance are more likely to present to the emergency department during a full moon.
Okay.
The
Okay.
research is published in an edition of the Medical Journal of Australia.
I mean, the like full moon and stuff like that's what astrology is, right? People
Yeah.
think that
Fucking retrograde.
yeah, all that bullshit, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept.
It is.
I feel like it's definitely super. I'm not even talking anymore. I just realized.
Were you talking into the coffee or into the?
I had my.
I mean, the sound on this episode is going to be insane.
Yes, it is.
I'm so sorry in advance, but what was I saying?
You were saying it's an interesting concept, astrology.
Oh yeah. I think I lost it.
Okay, whatever.
I don't know.
But like, also, aren't the Jewish holidays based on the moon?
Everything comes back to
The
blame on
today is Rosh Hashanah. We are filming on Rosh Hashanah, and yes, Jews follow a lunar calendar. Yep.
Yes, they do.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And the Christian holidays are based mostly on the sun.
Yes, because Christians good.
Right, good. Moon,
Good.
bad,
Moon.
scary.
Moon, bad,
Wolves.
scary.
We are wolves.
Bad.
Back to we are
Horns.
wolves.
yeah.
Wolves, animal.
Right. On the Jewish Halloween, they remove their horns.
It's called Purim.
Do something a little different, you know.
They dress shapeshift.
It's interesting because
Look at me, I'm a goy.
she's having fun today.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it.
It's finally safe to just let it rip.
Oh, just let it rip.
All right, so number 2.
Okay.
There was an actual.
So we're past what Australia used 70% of their government funding on. Okay, great.
So that was the medical. That was a report from the Medical Journal of Australia from about 12, 13 years ago. So this one is another vampire thing. This was an interview with a real vampire talking about a real life vampire community which exists right now.
Have you seen that movie, Interview with the Vampire?
No, I didn't want to see Brad Pitt kiss a 12-year-old Kirsten Dunst.
Wait, what?
That's
she-
like the big takeaway from that film.
Well, also it was like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise as like the best looking guys at the height of their thing. So almost like a Twilight thing.
Okay, easy.
Wait.
The adverse though is you said that in that movie Kirsten Dunst is the most fuckable.
I never said that.
Wait, I have a
on record.
I have a serious question though. If the actress is underage, there needs to be a scene like that. Do they just like zoom in and have like an of age person's mouth be kissing him, or like is he actually kissing an underage person? You know what I mean?
I would hope that there's an understanding. There's not really a sexual element to it behind the scenes.
Yeah, but they
There's gotta be
they put their
physically,
mouth
I'm
yeah.
sure
on
there has to be a
on her
guardian
mouth.
there. Hopefully.
I know, but still, isn't that just like straight up? You can't
awful.
be making
Yeah, I
out
don't
with a
think they
12-year-old.
They wouldn't be doing that today, thankfully.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's one of the pluses of the current
Yeah.
advancements that we have.
This movie's not that old. It's like early 90s. I don't know.
There were no
it's a good
laws
question.
in the 90s. All right, so Vampire Story 2, Interview with a Real Vampire. You're not going to believe this, but drinking blood isn't what Hollywood makes it out to be, according to real-life vampires. First of all, there's no biting. That's not safe nor sanitary. And with too many vital arteries, the neck isn't even the favorite spot. Do you believe that?
Wow.
So transactions aren't carnages leaving the victim lifeless behind in a dark alley, and nor do vampires sleep in coffins or burn in daylight. They're generally cool with garlic. Most of them don't even have fangs. So they're just people. Instead, modern vampires gets their sustenance from inch-long incisions made by a sterilized scalpel on a fleshy part of the body that doesn't scar. Though the vampire may suck it up directly from the source, medically trained personnel usually perform the procedure. There's paperwork too. Donors, in quotes, don't just have to consent, but also provide health certificates proving the absence of bloodborne diseases. Still, feeding is a sensual and sacred ritual.
What's going on? Where are we getting this information from? I'm so confused. Like, so we're getting this information from a movie?
So no, this is an interview with a man
Who claimed to be a
Sorry,
vampire?
I brought up the movie, but it's not.
This is
I
an
understand
interview-
now.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
I
is
was
an
like,
interview
what?
with Tom Cruise from the set. No, this is an interview with a man who goes by Murticus. Legally, he changed his name to this. Who's a founding member of Atlanta's Vampire Alliance that exists. today.
Okay.
So the people who
Good.
claim to be vampires are in the thousands worldwide, with demographics transcending borders, class, race, and gender, and increasingly researchers study them. So there are
So
literally
weird.
dozens of never news, but there are thousands of real life vampires.
There are dozens.
Never nudes.
There are dozens of us. When Zach Braff is also a never nude, that's the best part.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Okay, so this is a quote from Murticus. He said, "We're people you pass on the street and likely socialize with on a daily basis. We often keep this aspect of our life secret for fear we'll be misunderstood and to safeguard against reprisals from what society deems taboo.
Tell you what, you will be
Don't be
misunderstood.
feared of being misunderstood. I fully understand what you're saying, and I don't like that.
Right.
You are understood.
And you are more than public about this. He's doing this speech about how we hide, and he's like, they're all claiming it.
So Murticus, such a great name for this, has identified as a real vampire since 1997 and speaks eloquently and passionately about what vampirism is and what is not. Not a cult, a religion, a dangerous practice, a paraphilia, an offshoot of the BDSM community, a community of disillusioned teenagers, and definitely not what's depicted in fictional books, movies, or television. Okay,
All
but where
right.
did you come up with it then?
Yeah.
Where did you come up with it then?
Right, yeah.
Okay? And they're like, we're not like those fucking teens, emos that just are playing this. We're real.
We're adults that are still into that kind of stuff.
So he's an antique dealer by profession. He's married with 2 dogs, and he's one of exceptionally few vampires to be open about his identity. I hide in plain sight. For almost a decade, he has personally...
Where'd you get that stat? That he's one of the few that's open about it. How do you know about all the closeted ones?
So he's...
Yeah, true.
I love how we're making this like a thing that you have to come out as a vampire.
He said come out. What was he? Or identify, I'm sorry.
It's because of people like you that vampires live in secret, okay?
But you don't know who lives in
bigots.
secret. It's such a stupid stat. How do you keep track of who's in secret?
Okay, so he has personally worked with academics, social scientists, psychologists, lawyers, law enforcement agencies, and others on how to best approach, research, and understand the vampire subculture. For almost a decade, he's been doing this. He's an Atlanta native. He's known as Murticus, both legally and personally, even on a Starbucks card. That's in the article. He dresses a lot of black. He colored lenses or fang.
Fang prosthetics. Oh my god.
He doesn't don colored lenses.
Oh, he
or
does
fang
not.
prosthetics,
Okay,
But he does go head to toe black a lot. In fact, he is keen to say he isn't into it because vampirism is cool. He was into it beforehand. Real vampires don't care much for pop culture buzz, and most don't look like the stereotype. Only some, 35% of real vampires are into goth, he claims. Some even
These statistics.
Yeah, they're
some
great.
even sneer at the, quote, lifestylers, also known as fashion vampires and posers.
Oh my god. I want to know
They're
what he's up
gatekeeping being a real life vampire.
Also, I want to know what he's up to in 2021 because I can guarantee you he hasn't kept up this shtick.
I would
Don't you
like
think?
to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know. He lives in a loft with Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah. She's on OnlyFans now, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Mm-hmm. Society is a parody of itself.
It really is. I do feel bad for her children, obviously.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Children. So yeah, apart from the societal taboos, like consuming human blood is not advisable because of hepatitis, HIV, parasites, hazardous amounts of iron. Modern vampires, though, insist that their cravings are not voluntary. Life would have been easier without them. But simply, they're born like that. They're born with it.
Okay.
It isn't necessarily sexual, though they can and do overlap. Real vampirism should not be consumed with blood fetishism. Very different things.
Okay.
Apparently. Army Hammer wants to lick up your blood, but he doesn't want to eat it.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I mean, I
Did you
don't.
think- when we started this podcast, did you think we'd end up here?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I definitely did.
I think I'm surprised it took this long.
So it's another way it's different. It's like you don't get turned through vampire bites. For most vampires, it's a gradual and frightening process, normally manifesting itself in puberty or possibly following trauma. Through trial and error, vampires learn what curbs their hunger. So no one knows what causes hematomania, the craving to drink blood.
Okay.
Those who experience it describe it as an intense thirst-like sensation, an addiction with withdrawal-like symptoms. Animal blood or rare steaks may act as substitutes, but for most vampires, nothing beats fresh blood, as we all say.
Gross.
Why did you just say that? You just said that like Richard Nixon.
Nothing beats fresh blood. I got checkers on my lap. Nothing beats fresh blood. Frequency and amount vary, but for many, a few teaspoons once a week is enough. This naturally is supplemented with a normal diet. After all, real vampires are humans with human needs. This is so interesting because I guess it could go into our discussion at the end. It's like, because when you define a real vampire, do vampires exist purely because these people exist?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because like
I guess in history,
people
the fact that
drink blood.
These stories have existed for so many years. It's like, do they exist because people like this have always existed?
I
Right.
would say yes. I think that
And
you're saying like
cannibalism was definitely more common in the old days.
than drinking blood.
Well, I'm just saying.
Then
I think
now.
out of desperation, I think people used to eat.
Oh,
each
of
other.
course.
Way more.
Yeah, I mean it's happened plenty of times in the 20th century too. But yes, you're right.
So
Yeah.
not
That
all of
is
them drink
gross.
blood. How about this for a twist? The community, very tight net, generally acknowledges two types of vampires: the blood vampires, sanguinarians, and the psychic or energy vampires who drain of life force.
That's just some wicked annoying guy at your
Also
office.
known as prana or chi rather than blood from others. So I don't know how they do that. I guess they're kind of like
They just ask you a bunch of small talk, and then your energy just gets
I
sucked
know
out.
a couple in life force
Oh, yeah.
suckers. Let me tell you that.
I know many.
So they don't identify with fictional characters, supernatural powers, or immortality, nor do we have any difficulty distinguishing between fantasy and reality. If anything, pop culture is catching up to them, says Murdicus. Real vampires, he says, have existed
So
as...
wait, what is that?
Oh my
Pop culture?
God.
So that means that the newer vampire things, they're getting it right more.
They're
Like,
trying to
yeah.
they're trying to learn from Murdicus.
They're more authentic. Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So real vampires, Murdicus says, have existed as an organized community for nearly 30 years and in solitary for far longer. As there is no, quote, test for vampirism, everyone is welcome, and it's a remarkably diverse crowd, ranging from doctors, lawyers, soldiers, scientists, tinker, tailors, soldiers, spies. There are artists, teachers, and parents of all age, gender, etc. Some chose to align with like-minded through courts and houses, though the majority, he says, do not.
Okay. That'd be fun to live in. I mean, it wouldn't be fun, but like...
To have a vampire court?
That needs to be a reality television show, is people living in a house that all believe they're vampires. That would be fun.
But that's the show, What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
Is
but no,
those
it's not
are-
a reality
those
show.
are- So you want a real, actually love
I would like
that.
a show on this
That's
guy.
an idea
Yeah.
that I would
Yeah.
like to write, and if we could kind of offshoot this, I think that's a great idea.
Like a
And-
mockumentary? But isn't that just into the... That's in
that
the
would be-
shadows.
That is
yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows.
That's a
I think
funny
if it's
show.
like just a flip where it's like the real people that think that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Just like stupidly meta.
Yeah.
Also, What We Do in the Shadows, aren't they real vampires in the show?
Yeah.
They're real vampires in the show.
So
Yeah.
something about these
But
folks.
what's interesting about that show is they put it in the real world very aggressively, where like they have like familiars that are just like go and get groceries for them, and they're like very regular people. They're like, I'd love to become a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
All right, so final two stories. This is interesting. So Peter the Wild Boy, the werewolf phenomenon, may have a medical explanation. Can you believe that, Ben? Can you believe it?
No.
Not really, no.
Take Peter the Wild Boy, for instance. In 1725, he was found wandering naked on all fours through a German forest. Many thought he was a werewolf, or at least raised by wolves. Peter ate with his hands and couldn't speak. He was eventually adopted by the courts of
Oh.
King George I and King George II, and lived out his days as their pet in England.
What?
Europeans suck.
Yeah. They're crazy. They're wild.
Research has shown Peter likely had Pitt-Hopkins syndrome, a condition discovered in 1978 that causes lack of speech, seizures, distinct facial features, difficulty breathing, and intellectual challenges.
Oh, God.
So there's a werewolf medical condition.
It's not where. I mean, they're
it's just
treating
like a-
this poor kid like
a freak.
Oh, God. That's
So
awful.
he's just like a wicked hairy kid that is...
They
has
can't speak good.
Okay, that is like
He don't
mentally
speak
That
good.
is
challenged.
Like
mentally
us.
challenged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other medical
right.
conditions that may have
And they called
encouraged...
him Peter the Wild Boy. Jeez.
Get Wild Boy in here.
And then
George!
he was the pet.
They make him a pet. Oh, God.
It's awful.
Oh, boy.
So other medical conditions that may have encouraged werewolf mania throughout history are lycanthropy, a rare psychological condition that causes people to believe they're changing into a wolf or other animal. So this is a real
Ooh.
thing.
Okay.
So a real thing that makes them think that
That.
they're changing. Okay, got
So
it.
it might be psychosomatic. So
Yeah.
food poisoning, I don't know why. I guess werewolves are known to get to
Puke?
yeah.
I guess wolves
to
puke.
have
My cat pukes all the
uncontrollable
time.
Bowels.
Yeah.
Hypertrichosis, a rare genetic disorder causing excessive hair growth.
Wait,
That's
isn't food
very-
poisoning from eating people? Isn't that the idea?
I thought it was food poisoning, like they're just coming out both ends all the time.
Just a lot of coffee.
Werewolves just having diarrhea.
Just a lot of coffee.
Rabies, that makes sense, and hallucination, possibly caused by hallucinogenic herbs. That's interesting because isn't that like that 28 Days Later, that zombies movie where it's
Yeah.
like it's like a very like an aggressive rabies. It turns people into like
Yeah.
Monsters.
Man, that would suck to have hypertrichosis, especially on my nether regions. Let me tell you something. Oh my god.
Wait, which one was that?
That's the excessive hair growth. I think I have
Oh, in the nether regions?
that in the nether regions.
Oh,
Only waist down.
only waist down. There's no hair only grows on your vagina. All right, the shaky origin of vampires. It's thought Bram Stoker named Count Dracula after Vlad Dracula, also known as also known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad Dracula was born in Transylvania, Romania. He ruled Wallachia, Romania, off and on from 1456 to 1462. I love that off and on. Did he say, like?
Yeah.
He broke up with Romania for like 6 months.
Shaky relationship with Romania, you know.
Some historians describe him as a just yet brutally cruel ruler. As a just yet brutally cruel ruler.
Wait, is that this guy?
Yes.
This is nicknamed Vlad the Impaler, right?
This is Vlad the Impaler.
Oh.
That's why I called
Who's
him. Also known
impaling
as
people.
Vlad. They called him Vlad the Impaler, who was known as being just dash yet brutally cruel dash ruler who valiantly fought off the Ottoman Empire. So he was actually a hero, but he earned his nickname
He was not a
because
hero.
his favorite way to kill his enemies was to impale them on a wooden stake.
Dude,
according
wow.
to legend, Vlad enjoyed dining amidst his dying victims
Ooh.
and dipping his bread in their blood.
What?
Whether those gory tales are true is unknown. Here's the thing. So that means they didn't die immediately. So this guy just sat you on a fucking stake and sat there next to it, dipping a baguette.
That's fucking.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather get wheeled or impaled?
What's wheeled mean?
Yeah, I
That's
don't
when
know.
you get broke.
Oh.
You get broke a bunch.
Well-
and then they cut your head off eventually.
Wheeled.
Wheeled because it's...
Wheeled
oh,
over
no,
impaled?
wait. Impaled because that's instant.
Well, no. These
You're
people
saying
are
he was
dying.
sitting next to the guy, dubbing in their blood.
Yeah, but how does that make any sense? Because
Can
then
I
it,
change
like,
my answer? Can I change my answer?
if you like impaled yourself, wouldn't it? It would have to go through your organ. You'd be dead pretty quick.
Maybe he's just sitting you on it and letting you gravity do the work.
Ugh.
Oh my god, there used to be some like urban legend that some girl was like masturbating with a broom or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Every high school had that.
Yeah.
Where, a broom?
A broom, and then she like fell on the broom and impaled herself.
Oh, God.
Oh my god! In our school, it was just like that. A girl, like there was a video that she like jerked off with something
With a
that you're not
broom.
supposed, like a broom or like a brush, a hairbrush or something.
All right,
The
a
handle
hairbrush.
of
I mean,
something.
okay.
Hairbrush, Bago's hairbrush. I use that now.
Desperate times, man.
Shampoo bottle. Come on.
Here's the thing: is all that this makes sense. So
Wow, that's
according to a
horrifying.
Dracula expert, though, Dracula expert Elizabeth Miller.
That I believe fully. That's more realistic to me than some of these other people. that we've been
Stoker
talking
didn't
about.
base Count Dracula's life on Vlad. Nonetheless, the similarities between the two Draculas are intriguing. So the way that vampires
Got the
are known
name
today,
from him, obviously, though.
yeah, it's interesting. Like it's like okay, but Vlad Dracula,
But it's also a cool name.
Count Dracula. Yeah, you're.
I get it.
But here's the thing: is vampires have existed for a long, long, long fucking time. Mesopotamians, Hebrews, ancient Greeks, even the Jews, and
we
Romans.
love to be called Hebrews.
They've all had demonic entities or like blood drinking spirits who were considered a precursor. So all throughout, this is what I was talking about earlier. Throughout all of time, there have been witchy suicide victims, witches, revenants, curses tied to people drinking bloods and being vampire-y. There's also been like mass hysteria, being like straight up being like people like believing either they were all going to turn into vampires or public executions, witches, vampires, etc. All right, folks, that's werewolves and vampires. I presented the evidence. I took you through a tale. We weaved, we bobbed, we got into it. You know what I mean? I think maybe I can speak for everyone when I say the research this episode was really well done.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
Yeah, I had fun.
I could speak for everyone when I say that. And, but I want to hear
Everything's
from you
very
two.
scientific, backed up by
yes.
facts. Yes.
I want to hear from you two. I'm going to close this. I want to really focus in on you two. You tell me, which ones are you thinking that you're walking by on a street?
Well, let's start with this.
Because-
What was your original before we started anything?
My original was vampires.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And?
I think I still go with vampires. I think werewolves are just wicked, hairy people that people are like, I don't know, weaving a tale that they're turning into a wolf. They're just unfortunately very hairy.
Yeah.
They're wearing sweaters at the beach. And I think the moon kind of like, does make people feel a little nutty.
I like to believe, not to speak for Ben, because I won't. I'll let you say your nonsense in a bit. But I like to believe that like most of these stories, they're rooted in some sort of fact. Like science and magic, usually there's something in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's probably like maybe the full moon does affect some people and make
I
them a
think
little
it
crazy.
does.
I think that's like a real thing.
I think it can like start my
It's
period
nature's
early,
period.
like
Yeah.
that kind of. It's weird. Yes.
That's what that's the closest thing to a werewolf.
Yeah.
Women have their period, that makes them werewolves.
Yeah.
But I think that like there's also like people might just fucking like have like a thing where they want to drink blood. And
I
that's
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
think that's a real thing. Yes.
That is disgusting.
Like werewolves, I would believe that like throughout history, it made some people crazy. That full moon just made you crazy and you start hitting people. And sometimes people are fucking hairy, especially back in the day. They're not groomed.
Well, did you know that I think I might be speaking completely just a false thing, but I think that crime goes up during a full moon, if I'm not mistaken. So like people do like they get a little wild.
Shows like have an episode where they're like full moons, you know? Oh, it's the craziest nights in the hospital.
Yeah.
So you think it's a full moon thing and not just night in general? It's really a study on full moons?
Full moons for real.
Nothing good happens at night.
Well, night is clearly when people get
also
more
the fact
wild.
that like it sounds like in my research that Europe got fucked by wolves. They
Yeah,
really.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So maybe they had to
I mean, you're
be
talking
like.
about 700,000 people died from wolf attacks in 1 month.
That's
in France. I'm kidding.
ridiculous.
That was all. that was very much not true.
But yeah, maybe that it just like I don't know. Wolves were such a big part of their lives. They tried to like explain it away. I don't even know or whatever. They like to.
But here's I want to hear from you, and
Yeah.
then I want to add.
I stick with vampires. I think that the drinking blood thing sounds. I mean, well, cannibalism obviously exists also, but
Obviously, I do it. Yeah.
it seems to me like the definition of a vampire is much easier to achieve than a werewolf because I don't believe that you can turn into an animal. So therefore, I guess I'm out on werewolves just immediately. While I do think that there are
You don't think
weird,
people can just go primal though?
like become
Go
a
primal,
literal
but-
werewolf? No.
But not become an actual wolf and
Yeah.
then turn back into a human.
Yeah. But
Just
you
go
do
to your
believe,
construction job the next day or whatever the fuck.
What if some people fucking blood makes them live longer? If they're drinking blood,
Yeah.
it's like part of their diet.
Well, adrenochrome is making Hillary Rodham Clinton live longer.
I can't believe she founded the Atlanta Vampire Society and nobody talked about it.
Hillary Clinton just goes under the pseudonym Murticus.
She is this 40-year-old man living as a vampire.
That is so funny.
I think if I had to decide betwixt the two, I'm walking home late at night, dark alleyway. Which am I more likely? Is it I'm attacked by a werewolf, attacked by a vampire?
Okay.
Which one's getting me? In the traditional sense, the magical sense.
Vampire.
It's a vampire. It's got to be a
Yeah.
vampire.
It's gotta be
It's got to be
Well,
a vampire.
especially, I mean, that's based on where we live, too. What, werewolves walking around here like fucking idiots?
That's true.
No,
we don't
that
live
would
in
be
werewolf.
ridiculous.
That'd be
That
ridiculous.
would be absurd. Yes.
That's true. If we were in the fucking, I don't know where you're going. You're going to Denver.
Going to Denver. Then I would say werewolf.
That's werewolf country.
That's werewolf country.
That's werewolf country for sure. And you drop.
Gotta keep my head on a
have
swivel out
little,
there.
A little shroom. You tell me you're not going to see a werewolf?
I'm
Although
definitely
I
werewolf.
think setting-wise, I kind of think of them. Well, no, in Dracula,
Dracula.
In Dracula, he does go to London. So yeah, you're right. I feel like Dracula could be. He's not in Transylvania. He's in like a really like castle in the middle of nowhere. But he could be in a city. While werewolves, you just
Yeah,
know.
right.
Although there's a movie
Vampires,
called
yeah.
Werewolf in London. So I don't know.
Also a song. Werewolves of London.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
We harmonized while sharing the mic. That's pretty cool.
Pretty good. Backup singers.
That's why we set it up. I mean, let me tell you something. History has been had by these concepts. The fact that it's like so enduring.
Yeah.
But vampires way more popular. It's because werewolves not as sexy.
No, nobody wants. Yeah, bestiality. Not a kink a lot of people are into.
Yeah.
Although I guess I guess there are a lot of.
Probably more popular than drinking blood.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast. That was a
Yeah.
big thing.
That's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
We were had. That's how we ended.